Hey guys, it's Wacky Universe here, taking over for American Eye today to bring you another fun ancient artifact video. From desert glass to bronze swords, here are Egypt's most mysterious artifacts. 12. Aceptas. As the pharaoh was preparing for the afterlife, artisans would create figurines to be placed in the tomb. They come in many different shapes, sizes, and colors, and typically feature some hieroglyphics that state how they're ready to get put to work. The Aceptas were supposed to act as servants or minions to the pharaoh once they've passed on to the other side. Some of these statuettes would carry things such as baskets, sacks, or other agricultural tools and were made of wood, clay, terracotta, metal, and other materials. They were made as early as the 11th dynasty all the way to the 30th dynasty. 11. Nefertiti Bust. Thanks to this sculpture, Queen Nefertiti is one of the most well-known queens of all time and an icon of feminine beauty. Because any original artwork of her is highly sought after, Egypt has been wanting Germany to hand her over so that she can be on display. It was discovered in 1912 by the German archaeologist Ludwig Borchardt. The claims began to become more public once it was listed in Time magazine as being one of the top 10 plundered artifacts. Intense disputes between the Germans and Egyptians broke out in 1924 and still continue to this day. Germany received many requests to repatriate the sculpture, but every time, the request was denied. Head of the Supreme Council for Egyptian Antiquities, Zahi Hawass, is very firm on his stance and claims that it was illegally taken from their country and should be returned. This led to scientific warfare between the two and Egypt banning exhibitions of their artifacts in certain countries who don't give back their stuff. There are even some claims that the piece of art is a modern hoax. 10. Merneptah Stele. Discovered by Flinders Petrie in 1896 in the ancient city of Thebes, it is currently being held at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. It's been a little controversial as to what it relates to exactly. It discusses the military campaign of Merneptah's victory over the Libyans and possibly the Israelis. It's often interpreted to have the first reference to Israel according to Wilhelm Spiegelberg. It was created in 1208 BC and has much historical importance. The stele displays Amun giving a sword to the king who had the mother goddess Mut on one side and Khonsu, the god of the moon, on the other side. It almost seemed like an ancient newspaper of some sort. 9. Cat mummies. Only a few other animals besides cats were worthy of the ancient Egyptian process of mummification. Cats were treated almost like gods, and you can see how their image has made an impact on their culture by looking at the mighty sphinx. Also, the god Bast took the form of a cat. In 1888, an Egyptian farmer was digging in the desert at Beni Hassan and came across a startling discovery. Apparently, he fell into a tunnel of thousands of mummified cats. As if cats weren't already creepy enough. As soon as locals heard word of this, they began flocking to the site immediately, hoping to find gold. They would even occasionally come across some gold sarcophaguses built for the beloved cats, but it was really more like an underground river of cat mummies. Many of these were auctioned off in the UK, but some are still on display at museums. 8. King Tut's meteorite dagger. One of the most remarkable artifacts that was discovered in King Tut's tomb, besides his golden mask, was the meteorite dagger. A new study of King Tut's knives proves that the iron in which it was made from is not metal from this planet and came from a fallen meteorite. In this photo, you can see the one and only meteorite dagger of King Tut. The iron blade was found wrapped around his right thigh, so that means it must have been a precious item to him. The only other dagger found on him was made of gold. What leads archaeologists to believe that this dagger is from outer space is that the iron was an extremely rare substance to come across during the Bronze Age. Researchers at the Polytechnic University in Milan in the 1970s had inconclusive results originally, but taking advantage of new technology, they decided to test this theory again. The blade closely matched elements found in meteorites containing mostly iron, as well as cobalt and nickel. What else might we discover from this young man's tomb? 7. Khopesh sickle sword of Ramses the Great. One of the first designs for an ancient sword was the khopesh sickle sword that you might have seen in the Scorpion King movies. The sickle design comes from a tool farmers in ancient Egypt used to cut grain, so it should be useful if you decide to establish an agricultural settlement. Although it was typically made from bronze in ancient times, modern-day steel versions can do a lot of damage on zombies. The blade helped forge the empire, and it was notorious for its brutal slashing ability during the New Kingdom. The khopesh became an important symbol instrument as well, and would be placed in tombs during burials. King Tut was buried with 2 of these sickle swords for him to bring into the afterlife. The one in the photo was used as a weapon by Ramses II. 6. Book of the Dead. The ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead was a collection of papyrus scrolls which contained numerous spells that would allow the soul to navigate its way to the afterlife successfully. Many have heard of the title, though it should really be translated to the Egyptian Book of Life, and many would consider it to be an ancient Egyptian Bible in a sense. For them, the afterlife was like a continuation of life on Earth, and your soul would be sent to the Hall of Truth, where it would cross over to paradise to regain all that had been lost in the previous life. But before you could make it to this holy paradise, you had to know how to address certain gods of the underworld, such as Osiris. The soul was weighed with a scale by using the person's heart against the feather of truth. If the souls were heavier than the feather, they would be devoured by a creature known as the Ammit. If it was lighter, Anubis or Osiris would guide them into the underworld. During the New Kingdom, the Book of the Dead was only available to the upper class and royalty. Many have been intrigued by the spells which are dedicated to how one should act while meeting characters from Egyptian mythology. Even if you don't find the stories to be too mysterious, the artwork itself is enough to make you question the scribe's sanity. 5. Statue of Khafre. Khafre was a pharaoh during the 4th dynasty of ancient Egypt, making this a pretty old statue. About 5,570 years old to be a little more precise. It's being kept in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo and is made from an extremely hard, dark stone that was quarried 400 miles away from his tomb. The statue was carved for the king's tomb that was located near the Great Sphinx. He's portrayed as the ideal masculine leader, with a beard, cobra-like headdress, muscular upper body, and a kilt, not a skirt. In fact, this guy was such a cool leader, he even got his own Great Pyramid. The middle-sized pyramid of Giza was dedicated to Khafre, so anything relating to this king is of great value. Many are still amazed that ancient Egyptians had the proper tools to make such a detailed carving from such a hard rock. Some compare it to making a wooden sculpture with a plastic knife. 4. Narmer Palette. The Narmer Palette is carved out of a single piece of siltstone, which was most commonly used for ceremonial tablets during the 1st dynastic period of Egypt. It's about 2 feet tall and shaped like a shield. It depicts the 1st dynasty ruler named Narmer, who's attacking his enemies in the Lower Kingdom and uniting Egypt. Some people originally thought that it was meant to be used as a shield, but it would be proven false since there was writing on both sides. It tells the story of his conquest and how he was able to please the gods by doing so. Being the 1st king of the 1st dynasty really helps make this piece extremely valuable and old. It likely dates back to sometime between 3200 BC to 3000 BC. 3. Libyan desert glass. Around 28 million years ago, a huge comet struck desert sands in Libya and heated up the ground particles to 2000 degrees Celsius. This impact was hot enough to turn the sand into a yellow glass. Remnants of the comet and the Libyan desert glass are only found in the Sahara Desert from this rare event and are found within a 6,000 square kilometer area that you see in this map. The ancient Egyptians adored this naturally formed glass and felt like it had magical powers to it. Here in this photo, we see one of Tutankhamun's remarkably preserved brooches with a Libyan glass scarab beetle as the centerpiece. It is also seen as a valuable material to make tools from, and has similar properties to obsidian, which is a volcanic glass used for weapons by the Aztecs. 2. The Pyramid's Vessel. Archaeologists discovered a rare funerary boat near the Abu Sir Pyramids, located just south of Cairo. Since the Nile gave ancient Egypt many of their resources, boats played a vital role for transportation and fishing to the people. With Egyptians taking their burial ceremonies quite seriously, there's no doubt that they'd want to bring one with them to the afterlife. The discovery of the 4,500-year-old ship most likely belonged to an upper-class citizen, since wood wasn't always easy to come by in the desert at this time. The archaeologists were clearing an ancient mastaba, or tombs, and found parts of a 60-foot ship lying in the bed of stones. This could be key in further understanding the Egyptians' shipbuilding techniques, as well as funerary traditions. 1. The ancient Egyptian glider. This small wooden object known as the Saqqara bird was found near the city of Saqqara, Egypt, in 1898, 5 years before the invention of the airplane. Saqqara is well known for serving as an ancient necropolis, which brought some mysterious artifacts to this area. This was believed to be a sacred object since the god Horus takes the form of a falcon. The glider made many historians wonder if the ancient Egyptians could have possibly designed some kind of flying aircraft. A model replica was tested and it flew quite well, surprising many, meaning that it was in fact aerodynamic. Many archaeologists refuse to accept the fact that it may have been used to transport humans.